Met some of you, I'm sure, in some of the past webinars, but just to let you know, my name is Rocio Galarza, and I work at the U.S. Social Impact Department at Sesame Workshop. We are very excited to be sharing with you today some definitions for learning environments, really think about how to look at it from a conceptual perspective, but then really apply all of the concepts that we are going to be introducing into real environments. Barbara-Ann, last time I learned so much from you. I know this time around we're going to learn so much as well. So let's start very quickly. I'm going to go quite fast at the beginning because I want to get to Barbara-Ann's examples, which are so practical and so helpful for all of you. So what are learning environments? Learning environments refers to the diverse locations, the context, the cultures, everything that the kids, the students bring with them to learn. Because of this, when you look at learning environments, we are considering learning environments to be not only the physical places, but also different types of components that these physical places or these spaces, I should say, bring about. For example, the social components, the temporal components, and then, of course, the physical. And what we're going to be talking about today are examples of these different components and then putting them into practice. All of this wonderful information, just to let you know, comes from the Vanderbilt University, the Irish Center for Early Childhood, and it is an amazing resource for you to look at these early childhood environments and how to think about them conceptually. So let's discuss a little bit about the social components. As you can see here, the social components are those interactions that kids or the students, the learners have with each other, with each one of the members of the community. These can be adult interactions as well as connections that they have with each other, connections that they have actually with the people that come into this community, like their parents. All of these are part of the social components, and the spaces that you have, the opportunities that you have for children to explore these social components are very important in creating a productive learning environment. We think about learning environments as what are the interactions that are benefiting from me from an individual perspective, what are some that are that bring about group activities, and then we also think about them in terms of the whole child learning. What are the social components that are helping me explore social emotional skills, language and literacy, cognition, physical skills? Then we have the temporal components, and this is the timing, the sequence, the learning of the activities. These are the routines. And of course, in the early childhood settings, these become the backbone, the structure in which your day is conducted, and also the opportunities of learning that those structures actually provide. So what are you doing in terms of routines in the morning, noon, dismissal, for example, or when the kids are being picked up? What are those routines that are part of those times? There's also the activities as a whole. What activities do you have in terms of your calendar, and how perhaps some of the curricular areas that you're trying to accomplish are divided within the calendar of activities in your program. And we should, because we have been talking about the interactions as adult-child, let's not forget also not only the activities or the timings that you have for the kids, but also for those family members and for the parents that come into your program. They're definitely part of those environments. And then, of course, is the physical component. It's the design and the layout of your spaces. And you will see in the examples later on how the spaces can not only provide a safe and comfortable environment, of course, safety being the primary concern, but also they provide different opportunities for learning. The more multisensory experiences that kids can have, the materials, whether it's indoor, outdoor, the light, the sound, the arrangement, the design, all of these components are part of what we are categorizing as the physical component of a learning environment. The environment is a third teacher. It works in partnership with you. You set it up to make the most out of the experience that kids are having, to make the most out of, to make it easier for you as well to manage the behavior of the kids that are in your program, as well as making sure that people feel included, and engaged in the program, right? So, and that in particular, I'm mentioning because of the families. They feel welcomed, and you guys do a beautiful job at creating environments that are inclusive, that are welcoming. So how do we help you think about your environments, so that you are making the most out of it, so that it's helping you, and it's they are really building on those skills and strength that you as family childcare providers already have? That is the question, right? How the environment is supporting the quality of your program. How are we designing them? And if we look at these categories, they're components that, or they're ideas that come up when you're actually dividing your environment, or thinking about the environment in those categories. So let's start. Barbara-Ann, give us some examples on how these three categories can help us with very practical practical examples.
Thank you so much, Rocio. Hi, it's Barbara-Ann, and I'm going to take you through some environments that are set up in a family child care home, and do a couple of things. First of all, as I'm showing you those environments, I'd like you to remember the three things that you just learned about. That is the social component, the temporal component, and the physical components, and see if you can apply those to the settings that I'm going to show you. And then we'll talk about some other things as we go through the settings. The other thing I'd like to say for the piece that you just saw that said the environment is the third teacher working in partnership with a provider and a curriculum, I'd like to say that the environment, the physical environment, is also actually, in a sense, a program in itself, because if it is set up with the children in mind and at their level, they sort of create their own program. When you see the materials set up in this way, the children sort of become part of the design of the program. So as I start through the slides, we'll talk about that a little bit. So let's go to the first slide, which is, we're entering this family child care provider's home. And the first thing you see here is what I think is sort of a whimsical introduction. It is child level, and as the children arrive, the steps to the left take them into the building, and the walkway to the right takes them into the outdoor play area. But it's just a cool thing. It's a little welcoming kind of thing, and very attractive. And so think about, when children arrive, what is the first thing that they see? What is it that's going to say to them, this is your place, I'm welcoming you, this is going to be your space? Can we go to the next slide? The other thing that I'm going to do is, in some cases, I'll tell you what the space was designed for. And then in other cases, I'm just going to have you take a look at it and say, okay, if I did this in my yard, what would I think that it would do? What is the program that I think that will happen in this space? So this is the first area that they had. As you can see, it's circled with tires. The other thing about these environments that I'm going to show you is that in most of the cases, all of this stuff was designed and created by the provider and her family. Very little of it, and I'll tell you which things are purchased things, but in many cases it is repurposed things, like in this case, the tires. Yes, they had to buy the screened area, but other than that, we're going to be looking at natural environments in many cases. So if you take a look at this and think about what it is they'd be doing in this area, what are they going to do with those tires? The other thing I'll tell you, that I was taking these pictures in the fall after a rainy day. So the outdoor area is going to look interesting in that way. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, in this case, what you have is a sort of gravelly, you'd think it was a sandbox, but it's really sort of a gravel pit where they have some digging equipment and kids can go in and work sort of like construction workers in a construction kind of area. And in every one of these cases, it's sort of like a free form thing. I mean, the provider can be here and do some educational stuff, but in many of these cases, the children can see this as their own educational environment and work through how to use it, which is really very interesting to watch. I did an observation, an accreditation observation at this home and actually saw the kids doing this stuff. And that's why I'm so excited about how it worked out for them. Also, these spaces are designed to be small, child-sized spaces, so that the children know that only so many children can work in this area at the same time. And so it's also a self-managing kind of system. And you'll see more of that both outdoors and indoors. There's a little riding car that you can see on the left-hand side. That's just sort of a track that the kids step up on, get on the car, roll down, roll it back up, roll down the steps. They can repeat that forever. Next step. Okay, basic sandbox, again, child-sized. One of the things that I will tell you for designing your environments is the first thing you want to do when you look at an environment, when adults come into a child environment, many times they take a look at it and say, it looks cluttered. Well, that's because you're looking at it from an adult-sized person in what is a child-sized space. And one of the things that I always suggest is get down on your hands and knees and look at the space from the eye level of the child. And you'll see that that's very different than when you go to do your designing. So yes, it is a small sandbox. It probably holds 4 children, but they can work in this area and feel like they have the control. They have the control of the space, and that helps them in a couple of things. First of all, for the social component, for interacting with each other, they have to learn how to work together in a small space, in a space that's their size, but accommodates maybe 4 of them. And also, it has some of the physical components that make it work. So the toys are there, they get to arrange them as they wish. They can dig in the sand, and there's, as you can see, there's places to sit around the edge as well. Again, this was something that I believe they constructed themselves. Next slide.
Barbara-Ann, one thing that I'm noticing in these outdoor environments is that there's so many opportunities also for STEM, for exploration of all sorts when it comes to STEM in terms of skills.
Yes.
Right? It's just incredible how much the outdoors is kind of prone to that, for kids to construct the ramp of the car going up and down in the previous one. I think that we sometimes forget how much the outdoors should be part of those curriculum areas.
Thank you, and that's very true. What they've done here actually, and that's why I did the outdoors first, because it was so amazing to me. This is actually a totally programmed, designed outdoor space. So you will see as we go on that all of the programmatic activities, as you were saying, and you've seen it already, so that's very cool, are here in this space. So let's go on to the next one. And thanks, jump in anytime. Okay, this one is, I believe, a gardening space. And they have all kinds of things to be able to collect stones and do artwork. And I'm trying to see, oh, and the sign says, oh, it's the Discovery Depot, where they have magnifying glasses and all kinds of things to be able to use to explore nature right there in this little shelf. And because it's all outdoors, it's just an amazing opportunity to be able to do that. Again, all kinds of stuff that you can just put together and have constructed or find. What we try to do is stay with natural products throughout, and this is a good example of that. And exploration for kids is important. So let's move to the next one. And it is another area where, oh, yeah, one of the little cars fell off the track. The other thing is that kids in this, when the kids are in this environment, when it's not, it just rained and everything's out here. But the other thing is that because they own the environment, they also put stuff back. It's not like the provider has to come and put things away. I think this time because it rained, everything got left outside. But for instance, the little car that fell off the track, the kids will just go over there and put it, one of the older kids will go over and put it back up for little kids to ride on. And when it comes time to go indoors, they automatically take all this stuff and put it away. It just rained that day, so it all got left out there. But it does show you the variety of different kinds of things that they have to work with. Like there's a hard hat for sort of a construction worker hard hat, and it looks like there's a fireman's hat. Just a bunch of other stuff that they can choose to play with. And by the way, this is a very small yard. This is not like a huge space. It's again, it's all geared to the size of the children and what they will be doing in it.
Yeah, I just love how pretend play. You know, we think of pretend play as a corner where we have all of the different, I don't know, costumes, but pretend play can be any place if you have a hard hat or if you let children be able to use their imaginations as they construct, right? So I think that is pretty visible here.
Yeah, that's why I love doing these, because it's almost like you can see it. Mm-hmm. If you just look at it, you can see what they created. And coming up next, I think, will be maybe a cooking area. Let's see what you've got. Let's see. Oh, no, this is a water table. They have, you can see the little blue tanks on the side, and they run a hose up, and water runs down this and recycles. And the kids they put little boats in it, they put rocks in it, they make it a pond. They can do anything they want with it, basically. That's the cool thing. And because, again, it's all child-sized, it automatically creates that structure so that the kids sort of know how many kids can fit around this and it will work, and there are a lot of other choices. So it builds in self-control in a way, crowd control, just by the size of the things and the fact of the way they're set up. That one is a purchased item, by the way. I'll mention those when they are there. Next one. There it is. It is a outdoor play kitchen. And they have all the tools there and little chairs that they can move. Those little mushroomy chairs are plastic. And they have all kinds of different things. Again, small area where they can work together. It's a very cooperative type of setting where the kids can work together and do activities on their own. And also where, if the provider chose to, could do some kind of a specific program in this area with a small group of children. Next one. This one is fun. Those are tree stumps. They found these tree stumps somewhere where someone had cut down a tree and brought them over and made them into this sort of table and chairs area out of tree stumps. Again, one of the recycling things. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's so very creative, right?
Yeah. Just they're very good at repurposing things. You can see also at the back sort of left, there are cable reels, those that they made into use as tables. There's two of them that you can see just at the top left. Oh, and the shopping cart that went along with the kitchen area. Next slide. This is one of my favorites. This is an outdoor music center.
Wow.
And these are plastic pipe things that actually came. We have a shop called the Repurpose and More store where local businesses donate stuff that to them would have ended up in landfills, but to us is great crafty project kind of stuff for kids. And these tubes were actually in our Repurpose store. And these folks got them, put them together, and the kids can play them like a musical instrument because each of them has a separate tone. And so this is sort of the music area. They can bang on the tins and use them as a drum. All of these things make different musical sounds. There's a sort of a rack thing over here that they can run their hands down and some spoons at the bottom. Just a fantastic little music program without any musical instruments. It's just repurposed stuff that makes different sounds. And kids go in there and just play for whenever they want to. Next. This one is an arts and crafts center, and you can see there's I think there's a basket of shells and some rocks and other things. And obviously you can see they've been painting because there's 8 colors all over it, but they got to paint it too. The kids painted the thing. That's what they decided they wanted to do, and so they colored it. Again, freedom of expression in program that sort of runs itself in a way. Next one. Okay, this is where they store stuff and where the kids put all their stuff away at the end of the time. And as you can see, sort of to the left, there is a water jug with a spout. It is their outdoor hand washing area. And let's go to the next slide. This is a covered area for an outdoor group activity. You can see the cable reels better right here behind that. And this is where they might sit down and do some small motor skills or group activities, or they may just decide to sit here for a story hour outside. They can sit on the lawn, but they can also sit up here at this little closed area. Again, all hand constructed, except obviously for the chairs. Next slide.
One thing, Barbara-Ann, that I'm noticing is that the space feels much bigger than it is. I mean, like in this picture, you see the extent of how much space they have, and they've made such good use of it that in every single section there's something to do, and it just makes it feel so much bigger.
Mm-hmm. It is. When I first looked at it, I thought, as everybody does with this kind of thing, oh my gosh, that small yard is cluttered with stuff. But when you get in it and see the kids in it, it's their world at their level, and you can get a lot into a small space when you think that way. Mm-hmm. Next one. This is cute. It's just a play hat shop. It's they can just decide to dress up. It's sort of the dress up thing, but without it being clothes. It's just in hats that they can just choose to be a different person and choose a hat and walk around in that hat and make it be whoever they want it to be, using your imagination. It's actually imagination station. Again, program that speaks for itself, speaks to them and lets them sort of work through it on their own and be creative. And watching kids do that is really what's amazing. Next one.
One thing I was going to say from a
Oh.
parent perspective, right? And if we go back to what we were saying in terms of the different types of or components within an environment, having the station name the way that they have for each one of them is so helpful from a parent perspective. You come in and you know what your child is exploring in each one of these stations just by looking at the name that they just, they just label the sections.
Thank you. And that's a very good point to make, because many times when we're doing referrals for parents, I want a place where they're going to be learning something. Mm-hmm. Well, in this case, as you said, if the parent comes in and sees the words, they're knowing that that child is learning about it. That they'll see, you don't have to say, oh, they're learning the alphabet, oh, they're learning whatever. It's visual to the child, and it's also visual to the parent that, oh, that's what's happening here. They know what this is. They know this is a hat shop. Even if they're still so little that maybe they don't say that word, they've seen the word. They hear the word when the provider talks to them about, oh, you're playing in the hat shop now. And you're right, for the parents, and they didn't think about that, seeing that is also oh, my child is learning something. They know what a hat shop is. Mm-hmm. Thanks for saying that. Mm-hmm. Next. That's the cars again, just a little track thing. And it doesn't look like anything, but for kids, the repetition of doing something like doing that or climbing up those tires that they can't get hurt on, again, recycled tires. Again, giving them it gives the child the control of their own environment, and you can do some scheduled things there, or you can just let them do their own thing and create their own program. Mm-hmm.
Good for physics. They're exploring the physics of the cars. They're just with their own bodies and what happens when they're climbing the tires. That in itself teaches them so much.
Mm-hmm. And when the provider is in the space, even though the kids are just doing this, you say, oh, you're going down the slide. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're doing this. And that also contributes to bringing the program to the children, and also letting the children develop their own program. Mm-hmm. Both ways. Next. And this is again the discovery station from a different perspective. I guess that was one of my favorites. I must have hit it twice. Next. That's a better, closer shot of the kitchen with the chairs a little bit better set up. And it actually says it is the mud kitchen. Next. And that is, now this is the drinking water station, I believe. Yes. So because one of the things in accreditation that we want to make sure is that kids have access to water at all times during the day. And there's hand washing stuff there. There's paper towels. Yeah. Next one. And this is when the kids come out, what they do is take off their in-the-house shoes and put them in their own little bin and get their boots for walking around in the yard. Their boots, or I guess they're all boots. And they know to do that. They come out, sit down at the step, take off their shoes. If they're little kids and need help, the provider's there to help them. But if they're at the age where they can take off their shoes, pick up their boots, take off their shoes, put the shoes into their little bin. They know where their bin is. And they are, I believe, yes, they are color coded. So the kids know which color is theirs. So also another learning environment. They're learning colors as well. Mm-hmm. Next. Okay, now we've seen the outdoor curriculum area. Now we're going to go inside to see what they've done within this small home. First thing is, this is where kids enter, and they each have their own bin with their name printed on it. There's also, as you can see on the left, a stack of cots for sleeping time. Each of those is also labeled with their name, and there's a bin, it's not visible here, but that has their blanket that goes on their cot. Actually, their blankets for their cots are on the cots so that the cots do not touch each other. Their blanket is in between. And the kids know by their name and their colors which is their item. So this is sort of the porch area when you enter the house. There's also a sign-in board that you can't see that's over to the left, where actually the child's picture is there. And when they come in, their picture gets moved to the in column so that everybody knows who's there by pictures as well as by name. Next one. Okay, this is after you enter, this is all of their play figures, all in bins. Again, everything is down at, as you can see, at child size. Everything is organized and children can come in and enter this area and do program. But the first thing that happens, and I'm not sure it's the next slide. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, another set of bins and different program materials, all at child level, all labeled. You can see each of the bins is labeled for the type of play thing that is in it, so that children can, first of all, know where to find it, and secondly, know where to put it back, and doing it visually. And books at the top level. Next slide. This was one of my favorites. This, if you have been around in the business world for a long time, there used to be such a thing as an overhead projector, where you put something on a screen and it projected on the wall. So it's a metal box that has a light in it, basically a light box that shows something on a wall. So they got this thing and put it on a table, and the kids, in this case, they had a whole bunch of leaves because it was fall, and they can put the leaves, they can turn this on by themselves by turning on the switch, and they can put whatever they want on the light table and have it displayed on the wall. So they can create patterns, they can do anything that they want to. So it's actually a visual art activity with an old piece of office equipment. That is something that they picked up at a flea market, one of those places where you can buy used and unusual stuff. And this is available for the children to just come in and work with. Also a chance, if the provider wants to do a specific art design activity, to be able to direct it. For instance, this one, it must have been, no, yeah, this was at Halloween. So it was a matter of coming up with a pumpkins and fall design that some child did. Next slide. Okay, this is the small motor skills table, and you can see the activity boxes all along the wall. Again, everything labeled. The beauty of it, one of the beauties of this environment is that everything is labeled and stored, and encourages children to learn to basically put stuff away. And it helps with the cleanup and organization, and also, again, giving the children the control of their environment. So you can do activities within the room, but you can also let the children create their own activities. Next slide. Dress up area. Everybody has one of those, right? And it's another area where you can see a work table and being able to display their artwork again on the wall. And the thing that I love about this, and the things that I love about family childcare, is because it is in a home, you have ease of displaying artwork and displaying things at child level. When I work with the design I do interior design for daycare centers, and I go in and see some of the things that they do, and the artwork is hanging up at the level for the parents to look at, which is cool and nice. But really, if you're a child and you did this thing, you want to put it at their level. You want to put it at the child's eye level, because so that they can appreciate it. And we as the adults can look down. We don't have to have it up at our level. And that's what's fun about family childcare. And you can do something as simple as just having something that they can clip on the wall. Again, I always like to stress that these are things that you can do without having to go out and buy expensive equipment. You can find little low tables or do little things like this, and just have a line for them to hang stuff, and it's fine. But it does bring it down to, everything is brought down to their level. Next slide. This is really one of the cool things, is all through this particular facility, they try to define things both in English and Spanish so that the kids are learning both languages. And so this is the gate into the kitchen area, and just has some interesting signage on it, as well as the word gate in both English and Spanish. And then they took some Legos and created a Lego wall where kids can just design stuff and stick stuff on the Lego wall. Again, learning colors, learning coordination, and learning language. It's not necessarily that the kids can read that, but the provider will explain it and use it as part of the program. Next slide.
I was going to say, Barbara-Ann,
Yes.
one thing that is kind of interesting, sometimes we think of our walls as the place where we showcase things, rather than like what they did here, which is a space to play. So it's so much fun to see that there are other ways of using just a plain wall for
Right.
interactions with the kids. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Thinking of every, I mean, this is thinking of every single space and making it a child space.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. It's a wall. It's just a plain wall, but you turn it into this, and now it is a toy. You're learning. It's another learning environment.
Mm-hmm.
Next slide. This is another really neat area, because one of the things that this provider does is, and I've never seen it before in a family childcare, so it was fascinating to me. When the children arrive, each child, when they come in, gets greeted, the whole thing, and welcome and all of that stuff. And they get to come in for breakfast individually. So first child arrives, child gets gets welcome, yada yada yada. Child gets to walk in here, sit down at the table, and the provider has an assistant, and the assistant says, "What would you like for breakfast?" We have, and she'll go through what the cereals are that they have and what the fruits are, and the children get to choose their breakfast individually. Never seen that done before. And this is their eating table. It's also where, after they finish their meal, you can see that there's, at the right-hand side, sort of the back right-hand corner, there is a little step stool and a sink. So first of all, they come in and wash their hands. So right before they get to order breakfast, they come in and wash their hands, they sit down, they have breakfast. They then There is an area for them to take their paper plate and dispose of it, and to put away their eating utensils. They then can go and sit at the table, and they'll do a story hour once the whole group is there. But it's just a very friendly environment, and it's sort of right down the center of this room. It then becomes an activity table. Later on, small motor and large motor activities are also used in the same table. But the breakfast thing was just interesting to me. And when you think about it, usually you wait for everybody to be there and then serve breakfast. But this way, it's sort of a rolling kind of thing, and I think it makes it easier. It also makes the kids have another control of their environment and the right to make choices. They still need to have the proper, you have to have water, you have to have fruit, and there's a whole combination of things that you need to have for breakfast for the child and adult care food program. But you can give the children the opportunity to make those choices within the range. They're still getting everything that they need to get. They just get to choose which of those that they want to have, which is an interesting opportunity. And that's the provider standing in the doorway. I didn't realize I got her in the picture. Next slide. This is the child level calendar on the wall. And it shows the kids what month it is and the days of the month. And if there's something special oh, there it is. It says which day is today. So they have the whole calendar. They know when was yesterday, today, and tomorrow. They know if there's a holiday, and they know the days of the week, and it's all there at their level. Again, a programmatic learning tool that can be used as a study thing, but also it's just something that is there for them to be able to see and observe and ask questions about. The year is there, the month, everything's there. Instant program all on a wall. Next slide. Now this is real creative. This is a loft, again, that was built by the provider's husband, so that you have a play area, a work area that is a kitchen below, and then another program area up the stairs. And the equipment, the refrigerator and stove kind of thing back there, again, they picked up at a flea market. They're all child-sized kitchen appliances. And the loft area is accessible directly for kids. One of the cool things that happened in this area, it was they were doing, it was sort of like the kids were playing a family kind of thing. And one of the little girls said to the little boy, "Oh, you have to take care of the baby because I need to go do something else." It was like obviously they had heard that somewhere at home. And she went off to go to work, and he was taking care of the baby. Next slide. Oh, this is beautiful. This is giving the children control of their environment. Each of these small areas only can be occupied by a certain number of kids. So for each area, there's this little sign along the wall, and it says, "I am here," and this is the dress-up area. Only 2 children can be in the dress-up area, and that's the picture of each of the 2 children who are in this dress-up area. The kids actually take their picture. If I want to go into the dress-up area, I pick up my picture, and I go over to the wall, and if there's space for me to be there, I put my picture on the wall, on this little thing outside of the dress-up area, and everybody knows that if there are two pictures there, you can't go in until one of those pictures moves. So the children, again, have their control of the environment and can make those decisions and control what happens. And it helps to dissuade reduce the arguments about too many kids in one place or too many kids wanting to do something, but not having the provider have to deal with that. Not that it doesn't happen, but it gives the children know that this is how it works. Only so many of us are allowed in here. Here they are. I can negotiate with somebody to maybe talk about, would you consider moving? But until that person moves their sign off the wall, that's their space. So program environmental control. Crowd control. Next slide. Again, that's just the little kitchen set, which is so cool that she picked up somewhere. Even a little toy coffee maker. And there's also, can't see it on the right, but there's an old-timey telephone on the wall. Next set. This is an alphabet learning space and also a game table. And again, the provider can do a program activity utilizing this space, or the kids can have it as their own learning program. And there's puzzles and games over here on the left, and other drawers of supplies on the right. Again, all child size. When you look at this, you think it looks like a large space. It is really a little kid size space. I'm showing you that with my hands. I realize you can't see me doing that, but it is all small. Next one. This is very cool. The little sign says the caring couch. If you go to the next slide, there it is. And the sign, you'll see the sign is above it by the bin. This is where a child is maybe upset or needs to be having some time out and some comforting space. Not time, we don't call it time out. It's some time to just relax and consider what's going on. And everybody knows that if you decide to go sit on the comforting couch, you can do that and not be bothered and just relax. And there's stuffed animals, there's toys, some plushy stuff on the right, just a comforting space. And then behind it, there are other bins and activity stuff, again, that they can use to just have a time to relax away from the crowd. Another loft, again, there. And in those cases, also with the loft, there is, again, one of those sign-out boards where the kids decide where they're going to be. Boy, I could run through quick again more time. Next slide.
Wait, hold on. I noticed some things.
Yes.
So the pictures on the top with the kids jumping and the other kid looking down, that actually is from our resilience materials.
Yes.
It's great that they're using it so close to the caring couch too, because they are feeling words. And so the idea is to help children understand the words and also different ways in which those words can be expressed. It's really cool.
Yeah, as I say, it was just fascinating. And it's not that everybody want to do all of this in your space. This is, this is excessive, but it's just other opportunities to think about this in different ways. Next. Oh, this is the infant room, and so there's pictures of kids on the wall. This tree thing, I'm not exactly sure how they did it, but they found this green meshy hangy stuff and painted the tree on the wall, and hung this from the ceiling, put lights behind it. It's just a very cool, relaxing kind of thing. There is baby swing looks a little high for me, but she said if they only use that when somebody is there with the child, but it's a calming thing, she says, looking at this lighted tree. Next slide.
I have a question, Barbara-Ann.
Yes.
How they handle being able to look at the babies while the other kids are going, the bigger kids are playing on the other side. Is there
Actually,
is
actually, in this case, there are 3 providers.
okay.
There's the provider and 2 assistants. So whenever the babies are in this room, there's somebody is in there with them.
Okay.
Then that's unique. You don't usually have that many people. That's why
Okay.
somebody else. The diapering table is there,
Mm-hmm.
and then
I see.
also in the next slide you'll see the cribs. The whole room was designed for the
I see.
infant, with
Mm-hmm.
storage area again and a little couch and designs on the wall, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Next
And do
slide.
the infants, not the tiny ones, but some of the bigger ones, are they brought up? Are they brought up into the other room where the
Yes,
bigger kids are?
yes. As soon as they're able to be on the cots,
Mm-hmm.
so they sleep in the other room. They also, if they have more than the 2 infants, because this room only holds 2, they also have the porta cribs for the smaller ones.
Mm-hmm.
So you have both opportunities, and those would be out in the regular room for napping.
Okay.
Next.
Mm-hmm.
Just, oh, this is a door of, you can't read the words, but it has to do with temperaments. You know, how you might be feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You know what does that look like? What is that child thinking or feeling? And they use that as sort of a um, if you're feeling sad or upset, you can take a look at this and sort of be in a calming area. It is the doorway into one of the other rooms. Next.
Mm-hmm.
This is cool. And this is again, you have to think of this all being down at child level, but this is the relaxation thermometer. And they get to talk through it again as far as developing, the child's view. I'm just trying to move through the slides here. Next.
Yeah, the intensity of emotions is a good opportunity to talk about that type of vocabulary.
The vocabulary and just dealing with emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Next. Oh, this is the store, the fresh market, and they actually have this little checkout calculator thing where the kids can go and pick something from the fresh market, plastic food products, and collect them and check them out at this little checkout counter.
Mm-hmm.
Next.
Oh, we've gone through them so quickly.
Well, closing in on 9:30, I wanted to get through so that people could have the chance to ask questions, or if you had some other comments you wanted to make.
Mm-hmm. Very good, very good. So just to let you know, there's an additional resource that summarizes the beginning of the webinar, and there are videos and articles and other webinars in our sesamestreetandcommunities.org website that support the same types of tips and the learning environments that we've been talking about today. But it's fascinating to see it in practice, and because it's like you were saying, Barbara-Ann, this is one program that has all of these different things that the kids themselves are creating their program because of the way it is set up. So it's really fascinating to see it. Any questions that anyone has right now that want to share with Barbara-Ann or with me. Let's see. How do I know? Is there anything? There's some technical questions. I'm going through them. Like repurposed pipe. How do you pretend the sandbox? That's a good question.
What was the question again? I'm sorry, I didn't get you.
Like, how do you protect the sandbox besides its harp? And
How do you?
Yes. Because when you have the sandbox, particularly when it's outside and
Oh,
it's raining.
there is a cover for it.
Okay.
They do cover it. This was a case of there had just been it had been raining for all weekend when I went to take those pictures, and they hadn't had a chance to cover it because of this downpour that we had. So normally when the kids are through there, the cover goes down on the sandbox.
Mm-hmm. And it had rained, so that there's some, once you see the pictures of it all dried up, it
Yes.
does look more put together.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been crazy weather here, and it was just one of those rainy weekends when I decided to go take these pictures.
And then it says, is the water table made? But that's the one that is fabricated, you mentioned, yeah?
That one they purchased, yes.
Mm-hmm. Overhead projector. Yes, everybody would love to see the kids and how the kids use the space. Did you have, because you said that you were observing the space as well, right? When you went observing, you saw the kids playing with the different materials and putting things away and all of this.
And that was what really impressed me when I did the observation for accreditation, that the children, when they, you've got this whole group of kids and they come out into that outdoor environment, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be insane. But they all went to certain areas and went and did the activities in those areas. Mm-hmm. And the providers were around, and if there was, a confrontation or some question, the provider would be there to help with it. But in general, the kids sort of went to each area and played and took turns, and there was no aggression involved in it. It was just interesting to watch a group of kids make choices on their own.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So because of the way it was set up, definitely the kids were empowered to make choices, and therefore they had obviously more opportunities to perhaps learn how to interact with one another, have to respect other people's choices, and learn to turn taking and all that stuff. There is a concern though that because this is a much bigger space that some of the other family tracker providers have. How do you pick and choose, right? What are the some of the ideas from some of these pictures that you think will work well in a small space?
I think that's it. You have to figure out what are the things that you actually want to touch on that meet these social components, the temporal components in the physical space. And it can be that just some of the, like I said, there were multiple areas where there were small manipulatives. You really need one of those. If it's a small family, this is a group family, first of all. So you a lot more kids. And in a smaller one, you just pick and choose those things that you're going to focus on. And you might, in fact, be able to have some of them set up some of the time and have them be movable, store those and put the other things out. You want to always be able to cover the areas that are important in accreditation. So you want to be sure that there's always access to art materials. There's always access to small motor types of things, but you don't have to have these multiples of stuff. Just pick those things that would fit into your area and perhaps switch them out.
And for accreditation purposes, if you switch them out at different times within your week, let's say, that's okay, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Then it also seems like there's a lot of time outside. Is this something that they have decided programmatically was important for the providers, and that's why the space outside has so many different components to it?
Well, it's a couple of things. First of all, in New York State, it is required that children have a certain amount of outdoor playtime. And in this case, because they wanted to have it not just to be a play area, but actually be a program-centric area.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's so much stuff outside. So actually, you see pretty much all of the program components that are inside are also outside.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the provider's choice.
Okay. All right. There were some questions. The handout that is provided with the webinar summarizes the components, and a lot of the questions that are related to the webinar for the certificate at the end are related to those components. So make sure to take a look at the handout again, so that you can review if you need a little bit more time. There was a question related to that. Very good. I think that we have covered a lot of the questions that we have in terms of the topics of the questions that have been posted. Is there anything else from our audience? If this is the time. If not, we are ready to finish our webinar. Again, make sure to look at the materials. Look also at there's one particular article about or topic about learning through routines that will be very helpful for creating these learning environments in our Sesame Street Communities website. Another one that is helpful, again, is learning through play. And why? Because, of course, in the learning through play, you have examples on how to create these environments where children are exploring different types of play. So I would recommend for you to look at those two topics that are related to the material that we discussed today, but also look at the handout that is accompanying the webinar. All right, Barbara, thank you so much. It's always so helpful to see how you're looking at these, how you observe these environments, and how you're looking at how the important decisions that providers are making to make this a true learning environment. Thank you so very much.
Well, I was happy to do it. And also, is it possible for me to say that people can email me questions if they would like?
Of course it is.
Okay, my email is barbara.ann@childcarecouncil.com. And just mention that you saw this webinar and you had questions, and I will be happy to answer them by email.
Okay. Very good.
Great. Thank you, Rocio and Barbara-Ann. So I'm going to kind of chime in and wrap things up if that's okay. So yeah, a lot of you have questions about like the PowerPoint slides and the handouts and the quiz and stuff and the certificates. That will all be emailed out within the next week. So give us a few days and we'll get you your certificates emailed out for attending the live webinar. And those emails will also have, you'll be able to download the PowerPoint slides, the handouts, and review all of that. You'll be able to access the quiz to take it. If you're watching the recording, then you'll be able to take it to get the certificate, as well as for anybody who wants to receive CEU credit. That will all be sent out in due time, so please be patient with us. And like Barbara-Ann said, if you have questions, you can always feel free to email us at NAFCC, and then we'll be able to kind of distribute those emails if you can't remember their emails. We'll get you taken care of if you have a burning question that didn't get answered in this webinar. So thank you again, everyone, for coming. Thank you again so much, Rocio and Barbara-Ann, for presenting. And we hope you all have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.